Hi everyone, and here I am with none other than Pete Waterman.
And Pete kindly agreed to sit down with me and have a chat. Join me as I explore the exciting world of model railways with behind-the-scenes features, step-by-step tutorials, interviews, videos, reviews and much, much more. I'm Dawn Quest and I love building model railways. Dr. Pete Waterman, OBE, to give him his full title, is here to open the Leamington and Warwick Model Railway Society Clubhouse extension, a club that's close to his roots.
I wish you all the best for the next 20 years.
So Pete, it's so lovely to chat with you this afternoon, and this is the second time you've opened the Leamington and Warwick Model Railway Society Clubhouse. Back in 2006 was the first time. What's drawn you to the Leamington and Warwick District Model Railway Society?
I'm obviously local from around here, so and of course my model railway is Leamington Spa. So you know, it was a marriage made in heaven. And the guys used to come up to the house and play with my layout. And then when they opened the new premises in 2006, I came down and I'd forgotten all about it. I've done a few things since then. But it was like, as a kid, it was Leamington Spa was really important to me because it was Great Western, and my uncle, who was general manager at the Triumph Cars in Coventry, he's come fishing on a Tuesday on the River Leam in Leamington. But this is what I thought, of course. Of course, the truth was that he came over, and then my mum and my auntie, they used to come over to watch him or bring his lunch because the truth was they went to the pub. So I was left on the station taking numbers, so I grew up here, and when I was a kid, Leamington was incredibly posh. It was fantastic, big houses, big posh trains, just seeing the green engines with a copper, and it just was a lasting impression. I'd go because my other auntie lived in Rugby, so we sort of went between Rugby and Leamington before went to school, and so I was surrounded by railways I lived next door to railways, so I'd always been surrounded by railways. But the difference between Leamington and Rugby was these beautiful green engines with copper and brass, where the West Coast trains, they were red or there were some blue ones in them, but it didn't have the magic that the Great Western ones had.
Lovely memories. And obviously we're here to see the opening of the Model Railway Club and the extension. How important do you think model railway clubs are to the future of the model railway hobby?
Well, if we don't have model railway clubs, you don't have a hobby. You can do so much, in a vacuum, but you don't pollinate ideas in a vacuum. And if you don't, use your ideas to push the hobby forward, it stagnates. And where would we be without places like Pendon? What there's a lot of people who are watching this don't even know what Pendon is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Pendon, because what we saw those guys doing in the 50s as a club completely blew youngsters like me away. I was like, wow, look at this. You go in here, there's a P4 layout, which is sensational. That's there because of what people were doing in the 50s in a club to push model railways. Now, without that, we wouldn't be here. The thing is about clubs as well, this is a social hobby. Why do you want to do it on your own? It's like I remember a classic line about this, about when we were starting to build Leamington Spa, and we were putting the DCC in, and we had the Merg guys up, and I remember having a conversation with a guy. The conversation went like, "Are you going to Whalley?" Yeah. He said, "I'm going on the Friday set it up, and then I'm going back on the Sunday night to take it down." Pardon? Well, I'm going to run it from home. What? Well, I can do all electron. I'm going to run it from home. No, the idea is of a model railway show, you go and you play with it. It's called social interaction, and that to me baffled me that people didn't want to go to club. Now, some people don't like clubs, but there are clubs for everybody, really. You know, one of the problems I think we've had, and we've seen this, is this getting around the age problem. You know, you've got to, you know, whether you're, how you get around this 18-year-old problem. But now, you know, the Model Railway Club have now, the same as we've done, you can do safeguarding. You can allow children in if you've got safeguarding, right? So it's not impossible, but you've got to want to do it. If you don't want to do it, you ain't going to safeguard. So a couple of clubs up by us won't allow anybody in under 18. It's like, guys, that's, by the time they're 18, they're on TikTok.
Exactly.
You know, they ain't interested. You've lost them.
Yeah.
We got the bug when we're 5, 6, 7. So would we have got the, would we have kept that bug till we're 18? I don't know.
Yeah, it's very much that mindset. It's not about, can we? It should be, how can we? How can we attract youngers? How can we do it? This is a problem. Let's find a solution. And I think you're absolutely right.
One of the problems is so many myths, and the law has moved on from when 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when we started to bring laws about unaccompanied youngsters at the railway, preserved railways, and Thomas the Tank Engines. It's all changed. That whole perception, when everybody had to have police checks or they've gone. That, thank God, that era has moved on, because you now can do it legally in lots of other ways, and there are people that will do it and help you do it, because it was like the clone police came in and closed everything, because it's easier to shut something down than it's to open it. It's easier not to do anything. The safest work site in the world is no work site. So bit of common sense. But we asked, the Model Railway Club have done it, we're doing it, and there are other clubs talking to us about how we put in safeguarding, because in Australia they have the government subsidise a thing called Men in Sheds, right? It's a massive thing. Well, we've had Men in Sheds basically since 1923. They're called Model Railway Clubs, right? We've already got it, and we're not sponsored by anybody, government. We could do with a bit of money from the government, because we are. It is a facility that helps people, particularly people with health issues and mental problems. It's like people that can't go into spaces because of other people. They get over that if they feel safe. Well, if you don't feel safe, you're never gonna experience that.
You touched on two very important points there. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what are the top myths you'd love to bust about the model railway hobby and model railway enthusiasts?
First myth, that it's expensive. Okay. Yes, it is expensive if you're collecting 200 locomotives. Not expensive if you've got 3 engines and 10 foot of track. You can build it yourself, and it's very cheap. Because let me tell you, Dawn, constantly people my age are all saying how expensive it is. Well, I had my first train set in 1948. Right, it was a Bassett clockwork loco. It was £2.17 and sixpence, and that's £2.75 by modern standards. My dad earned £2 5 pence or 5 shillings a week, so it's never been cheap. And the first train sets, electric train sets that were came up with were expensive. It was more than a week salary to my dad. The first Princess Elizabeth set. So it's never been cheap. But for some the reason which I never understood, there was this concept that it was cheap. It's cheap you can buy second hand, and it's still an option for you. But if 250 quid for a locomotive is too expensive, it's too expensive. Christmas at Blakemere, we said to kids, if you've got a train set, bring it, we'll run it. 3 kids turned up with Azuma sets, 560 quid each. You're going, hang on a minute. You came out saying to my dad, could you buy 560? Of course you couldn't. But now there are particularly in places like Cheshire where we are, people on £1,000 a week.
Mm.
So half their wages, it's not a shock to them.
So myth number 2, what would that be?
Myth number 2. That you have to be sane. In fact, it's one of the things that when we first went to the cathedral that I hadn't really appreciated was when I suddenly saw children with some problems, and the parents were brilliant. They sort of said, well, sorry about Johnny, he's this or he's that. All these modern terms, I have no idea what they mean, to be quite frank. And I watched these kids and I'm thinking, I can't ask myself a question here. Am I on the spectrum? Because I acted exactly like these kids and I still act like these kids. So I'm thinking, what's this all about? What is this? And I remember saying to the dean, I said, I'm blown away by all these people. I said, because they're acting like I acted, and just think it's normal to be excited about something and love, detail. I said, that's what I love is detail. I said, I've never thought that's extraordinary or unusual. I said, but Pete, you probably are a little bit on the spectrum. I went, thank God for that.
We talked about mental health. Hornby Hobbies have a new report out which talks about the return of the hobby. People are getting into hobbies, and it really is fantastic for our mental well-being. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, no question. I mean, we've got our own psychiatrist now on board because it's crucial. It's crucial. It's a link that's tangible. It's a fantastic link. It's like you asked me why a club's important. Well, why is this important for mental health? Because you can get into it. It's a way of breaking barriers down. And we love a lot of the kids that come. We adore. I mean, they're so special. They really are so. They make your day. Driving trains with these kids or letting them come and play. I can't exaggerate the satisfaction and pleasure you get from it because they go into a different world. They're in a different world. One little lad that comes, all he wants to do is run round and round and round. And his mum is trying to make apologies. I said, doesn't matter. If that's what he wants to do, well, yeah, but he might. I said, doesn't matter about anybody else. Anybody else says anything, I'll ask him to leave. He's having a great time, and he's starting to pick up things. You told me, he's starting to read. He's starting to get more into. He wants to find out more. We have another lad, Johnny, who's unbelievable. I mean, he comes in a cathedral. This lad has no concept of where he is. Shouts at someone, Pete Waterman, Johnny's here. Everybody loves him. He's knowledge, and he everything he does. The dean, everybody just thinks this kid is fantastic, and you just go. There's no inhibition. It's just, and we have a very, very special school next door to the cathedral, which is really damaged children. I mean, really damaged. And we're gently making it, because we have to lock the cathedral when but we're gently letting them in to interact with us guys, which 4 years ago they couldn't go out of the classroom. Now they're starting to interact because they see this people playing trains. There's no thoughts, there's no malice, there's no anger. They want to, just shout and scream. They can do it. It's that's what hobbies do. It's like I've never understood why anybody has a problem. Particularly some of my disabled mates. It's kept them going. I mean, one of the lads has got this is in his second year now with us. He's got terminal cancer, But walking around the layout with the kids, I'll tell you, he just says it gives him an extra year because it makes him want to live. That's model railways. It's the joy of other people that give you the greatest joy.
I know that you're a hands-on modeler, but you also love your tech. 10 years ago, no one had heard of a 3D printer, but now everyone seems to have one, and you can make something almost 100% realistic, touch of a button. Where is the balance, do you think, between tech enhancing the hobby or hobbies in general, or taking away the enjoyment? What do you think?
I've got to own up here, okay? I've been 3D printing for 30 years. So you're talking to the converted. I've always believed there is a balance where technology saves you time and where 3D printing is not the panacea for everything, okay? If you're a manufacturer, which is what we were and Hornby is, it enables you to do things, to try things out that would be inhibitive in cost wise. So, they can design something in Margate, or we could design it, you 3D print it, you can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it, and then you can make the real thing from it. A cautionary note, we've been talking about that here today. Resins warp. And I have a cautionary tale here. The stuff that I printed for Leamington Spa 25 years ago is all now disintegrating.
Oh.
It is literally turning to powder.
Gosh.
Because nobody knows yet how long this stuff lasts for. We don't know because it's not been around that long. But certainly we are seeing stuff that we printed 25 years ago for the station just fall apart, literally disintegrate. Now, when we went into manufacturing, we never used the resin. We never used the print. We turned the print into resin. So in other words, we made molds from the patterns and then cast them in proper resin, which doesn't deteriorate. If you are just going to leave your printed locos, I don't know how long they're going to last, but they certainly will warp. They certainly warp, and daylight change. UVs has lots of all sorts of fun. But that don't stop. Print another one.
Yeah.
I mean, if all you're going to do is just print stuff that's fictitious, I suppose that's up to you, isn't it? But if you use it as a tool to improve what you're doing, then we do it all the time. I mean, all of Milton Keynes benches are all 3D printed because it would be physically impossible to build those benches any other way. I mean, it's just impossible. So they might last 5 years, they might last 10 years, but we just have to print them again. So if 3D printing works, it's brilliant, as long as you know that it may not last forever. You may not be handing it on to your great grandchildren.
Now, I know that you're before your Clockwork loco, your very first train set was a Rovex Princess Elizabeth from M&S, is that right? 1950?
Yeah.
You've owned and made many layouts since, and owned some of the real thing, and still do. What's been your favourite, do you think? Can you name a favourite?
Oh yeah. The one I'm building now. Because now what we're doing now for this year and next year and 26 is we're taking it to a completely different level. So we've done all the track, we've done all the locos, the rolling stock. We built Milton Keynes, which is pretty big, pretty impressive. But compared with what we're doing now, it pales into insignificant. We're building buildings this tall off the ground. So for suddenly, you're taking a loco that's big and you're putting it next to a building that big. That's a different sort of modelling. But that's what I wanted to do, to say to young kids, when you see some of the fabulous models of the early days, they're modelling a period when buildings were no more than 3 stories high. Now you've got to model buildings that are 20 stories high. And you have to put it all in perspective, because that's the modern world. We don't build two-story buildings anymore. We build that way. So if we don't go down that route, then the hobby stagnates. But with all the technology, with laser cuts that we can do, suddenly we can do all this that we thought was impossible. You look at Pendant, which is hours and hours and hundreds of hours of work. I can now do that in an hour. That's a fact. And that's, to me, that's what you're handing on to the kids to say, well, you could build a block of flats. You want to build a station, build a car park, That's because that's what railways become.
Touching on that, for somebody who'd love to get into model railways but think, I could never be as good as that, and they feel daunted, it feels overwhelming, what advice would you give?
Oh, Dawn, that's the biggest myth. Listen, anybody can model, anybody. You don't have to be, for instance, I had never painted a painting until 5 years ago, and suddenly somebody said, who's going to paint the back scene? I can't paint. So, suddenly now I'm doing 64-foot murals in 4 years. I watch Bob Ross on the telly with his 5-inch paintbrush, right? And you go, hang on a minute, I can do that. Yeah, this is fantastic. Look at this. And you go, hey, you sit, you got to pat yourself on the back sometimes, I sat there this last week and looked at the backdrop, 64 feet, and I thought, hey, I ain't doing a bad job on that, Scott. It looks pretty good. So the truth is, you can do anything. Just takes a bit of patience. Don't expect to be brilliant first time out. Don't expect to keep what you're doing first time out. Be prepared to throw it away. But I think that people get surprised when they see what their talents are. You said it before. People get a hobby, they've all got 5 hobbies. Well, are people brilliant at 5 things? Probably not. Well, I bet they're good at one thing. Brilliant.
And just finally, if you could sum it up, what is it you most love about railway modelling?
It's been the best comfort blanket I've ever had in my life, because I've had an amazing life. I mean, not many people have had a life like me, particularly as a railway fan, owning the real railway, running the real railway, becoming the president of the railway, and still, writing songs for Rick Astley and having presidents and kings sing your songs. But, it's like, I've had some pretty tough times. And that's the times that I've gone into my railway room, shut the door, and got on with my personal life, because that's what I was able to do. Because while I've been modelling, I can't think of all the negative thoughts that surround me. So it's been that comfort blanket.
May I ask, 22 number ones, over 500 million sales at the Guinness Book of Records, which means more to you?
I think that's easy. I mean, I just said I've had a charmed life. I've done all that stuff. It all means so much to me that I wake up every morning and I've still got a job at nearly 80, And I was just joking with the boys inside, I'm doing the time at the cathedral, see if give me any more time, I can buy a few more years, because we're paying the bills. I keep saying, you'll need a couple of 100 million next year. Keep me on the bit on.
Maybe it'll work.
If you like this video, please do like, share and subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of all my future videos. And why not browse the shop at modelrailwayquest.com/shop. And to receive a 10% discount on everything in the shop, become a Questie. Join the Model Railway Quest membership to receive that discount and a whole bunch of perks and goodies. Details on how to join are above. I'm Dawn Quest, and this is Model Railway Quest.